Hello, everybody. If you're new here, then you're in the right spot. You made it. Welcome. And if you've been here before, then hey, I'm glad you come back. Welcome back. Yeah, it's good to see you. Yeah. Well, okay. So what are we on today? It's December 3rd already. Holy cow! December 3rd. Wow. So another story, another personal story from the basic textbook. I was different. Not all addicts reach jails or institutions in order to hit their bottom. In his story, in this story, originally published in the Little White Book and later included in the second edition, this different addict explains that his disease kept him confined to a life of fear and loneliness. He found serenity in a simple life in Narcotics Anonymous. I was different. My story may differ from the others. Oh, sorry, one sec. My story may differ from the others you have heard in that I was never arrested or hospitalized. I did, however, reach the point of utter despair, which so many of us have experienced. It is not my track record that shows my addiction, but rather my feelings in my life. Addiction was my way of life, the only way of life I knew for many years. Thinking back, I must have taken one look at life and decided I didn't want any part of it. I came from a good old fashioned upper middle class broken home. I can't remember a time when I haven't been strung out. As a small child, I found out I could ease the pain with food, and here my drug addiction began. I became part of the pill mania of the 1950s. Even at this time, I found it hard to take medication as directed. I figured that two pills would do twice much good as one. I remember hoarding pills, stealing from my mother's prescriptions, having a hard time making the pills last until the next refill. I continued to use in this way throughout my early years. When I was in high school and the drug craze hit, the transition between drugstore dope and street dope was a natural. I had already been using drugs on a daily basis for nearly 10 years. These drugs had virtually stopped working. I was plagued with adolescent feelings of inadequacy and inferiority. The only answer I had was that if I took something, I either was I either was felt or acted better. The story of my street using is pretty normal. I used anything and everything available every day. It didn't matter what I took so long as I got high. Drugs seemed good to me in those years. I was a crusader. I was an observer. I was afraid. And I was alone. Sometimes I felt all powerful, and sometimes I prayed for the comfort of idiocy. If only I didn't have to think. I remember feeling different, not quite human. I couldn't stand it. I stayed in my own natural state, loaded. In 1966, I think, I got turned on to heroin. After that, like so many of us, nothing else would do the thing for me. At first, I joy popped occasionally and then used only on weekends. But a year later, I had a habit, and 2 years later, I flunked out of college and started working where my connections worked. I used stuff and dealt and ran for another year and a half before I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I found myself strung out and no longer able to function as a human being. During this last year of my using, I started looking for help. Nothing worked, nothing helped. Somewhere along the line, I had gotten the telephone number of a man in NA. Against my better judgment, and without hope, I made what may well be the most important phone call in my life. No one came to save me. I wasn't instantly cured. The man simply said that if I had a drug problem, I might benefit from the meetings. He gave me the address of a meeting for that night. It was too far to drive, but besides, I was kicking. He also gave me the address of another meeting a couple of days later and closer to home. I promised him I'd go and have a look. When the night came, I was deathly afraid of getting busted and afraid of the dope fiends I would find there. I knew I wasn't like the addict you read about in books or newspapers, despite these fears I made of my first meeting. I was dressed in a three-piece black suit, black tie, and 84 hours off a 2.5 year run. I didn't want you to know what and who I was. I don't think I fooled anybody. I was screaming for help and everybody knew it. I really don't remember much of that first meeting, but I must have heard something that brought me back. The first feeling I do remember on the program was the gnawing fear that because I'd never been busted or hospitalized for drugs, I might not qualify and might not be accepted. I used twice during my first 2 weeks around the program and finally gave up. I no longer cared whether or not I qualified. I didn't care if I was accepted. I didn't even care what the people thought of me. I was too tired to care. I don't remember exactly when, but shortly after I gave up, I began to get some hope that this program might work for me. I started to imitate some of the things the winners were doing. I got caught up in NA. I felt good. It was great to be clean for the first time in years. After I'd been around for about 6 months, the novelty of being clean wore off, and I felt off that rosy cloud I'd been riding. It got hard. Somehow, I survived the first dose of reality. I think the only thing I had going for me then was the desire to stay clean, no matter what. Faith that faith that things would work out okay. So I asked for help. Since then, it's been an uphill fight. I've had to work to stay clean. I found it necessary to go to many meetings, to work with newcomers, to participate in NA, to get involved. I've had to work the 12 steps to the best I could, and I've had to learn to live. Today, my life is much simpler. I have a job I like, I'm comfortable in my marriage, I have real friends, and I'm active in NA. This type of life seems to suit me fine. I used to spend my time looking for the magic, those people, places, and things which would make me feel ideal, no longer have time for magic. I'm too busy learning how to live. It's a long, slow process. Sometimes I think I'm going crazy. Sometimes I think, what's the use? And sometimes I back myself into that corner of self-obsession and think there's no way out. Sometimes I think I can't stand life's problems anymore. But then this program provides an answer and the bad times pass. Most of the time, life's pretty good. And sometimes life is great. Greater than I can ever remember. I learned to like myself and found friendship. I came to know myself a little bit and found understanding. I found a little faith and from it freedom. And I found service and learned that this provides a the fulfillment I need for happiness. Wow. Yeah, wow. I can relate a little bit to the point where like, well, I've never spent any time in, like, well, I guess what I would say real jail or prison. Like, I mean, I I was on a 2-year consecutive sentence once that I did in a year's time, with a year's house arrest that I did in 6 months, all on the honor system, before the cops started checking up on people who get put on house arrest and stuff like that. But again, it wasn't drug or alcohol related. Well, it might have been alcohol related because it had to do with assault. But again, like, I didn't have to go through those things during my addiction. However, during my active addiction, my ups and downs were in different areas. I mean, I did my fair share of crime too, but I never got caught. Not that I'm bragging. But today, though, I'm a different person. And it's funny, I don't know if you noticed it, but every time when I'm reading a story, that if it gets to a section where it's just where they're talking about they just discovered NA, or somebody had helped them or whatever, and it's usually that's when you start tearing up a little bit. So for anybody of you catching me going making weird noises as I'm trying to read or wiping my eyes, I apologize for that, because it's a lot harder to read the book when my eyes are all glossy from crying. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Another story from the basic text. I appreciate every one of you, and if nobody's told you today that they love you, well, I love you, and please hit subscribe and like. I like me now, so you can like me too. Okay, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow or soon.